Mr. Right here, I wanted to explain lesson 1 to you for all of the treble clef instruments like the flute, the clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, French horn, also the bass clarinet, and the mallets. Yes, so I want you to understand, and this lesson, even though it says clarinet at the top, this will apply to all those treble clef instruments. So you'll be just fine because we're just talking about generic terms that apply to all those treble clef instruments. So you'll notice here that we have this. These are called staff lines right here in music. It's 5 lines, and we're going to look down here where the lines are spread out a little bit more so that we can see what we're doing a little bit better. But you have these lines, and of course the bottom line is the E line. If you put a note on this bottom line, it would be an E. If you put a note like this one on the second line, it would be a G. Then this next one, a B, a D, and F. There's a sentence you can help to remember those, 2 sentences. Every good boy does fine. Or you could say, Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. And notice it began from the bottom line and worked its way up. There's also a word that we can use to memorize the notes on the spaces between those lines. And that's F-A-C-E, which spells face. And in treble clef, this little sign right here called our treble clef, it lets us know that we're playing in the high register. But it used to be shaped more like a cursive G. And notice it still kind of looks sort of like a G almost. But this swirl right here encircles the second line from the bottom, the G line. And it was called the G clef for a long time, but now it's just called the treble clef. So that's our treble clef. And this is a whole note. Notice that it looks like a hole. And I want you to think of this whole note as a whole, complete, standard note by which we shall measure all other note values of how long you hold notes. So this is a whole note, and in this time signature, it's going to receive 4 beats. You'll hold it out for 4 beats like da, like that. In this next measure, now from the beginning, from here all the way to this bar line right here, this is called a bar line. It ends the first measure. So from the beginning to here is the first measure. So, and that whole note is going to take up the whole measure. In this second measure, from this bar line to this bar line, this little box right here is the second measure. Here's the third measure right here. Here's the fourth measure. I think you get the idea. So, and these are bar lines that separate them. So you've got a whole note for 4 beats. Then you've got what's called a whole note rest for 4 beats of silence. 4 beats of sound, 4 beats of silence. 4 beats of sound, 4 beats of silence. So you'd perform it like da, rest, 2, 3, da, rest, 2, like that, and it goes back and forth. So, and another thing that we want to talk about, at the very, very end, there's the double bar right here at the very end. It lets you know that this exercise or this piece is coming to a close. It's the end. Now this time signature right here, like I said, it tells you that there's 4 beats. The top number, it tells you how many beats are in the measure, 4. All right, and this is not a fraction, it's a time signature. The bottom number tells us what type of note gets the beat. Now, you could take this whole standard measure, this note right here, and cut it into 4 parts. You take this number, divide it into a whole note, and you get 4 parts or 4 quarters. So that would let us know that the quarter note receives a beat. If this number in the bottom was a 2, you'd take this whole note, cut it in half into 2 parts. The half note would receive the beat, and so on. More about that later. So that's what the time signature is all about. 4 beats the measure, the quarter note receives the beat. Now, so right here is just the same example that from above. You have a whole note for 4 beats of sound. Da, rest, 2, 3, 4. And during this rest, you have to count it. You need to know how long to hold a whole note, and just as importantly, you need to know how long to hold each different type of rest. Down here in measure 17, we have half notes. They look like a whole note. They're empty on the inside like that, except they have this little stem right there. A whole note has been cut in half, and we have two half notes. So instead of 4 beats, each one of these receives 2 beats each. So the way you perform this is da, 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 rest, rest, da, 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 rest, rest. Down here, they look sort of like these half notes, except they've been filled in here. Notice that. These are quarter notes. If you cut a whole note into 4 parts, you get 4 quarter notes. So we're going to divide those 4 beats that were in that whole note into 4 different parts, and we get 4 beats of quarter. So these quarter notes receive 1 beat apiece. So you go ta, 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 rest, rest. And these are quarter note rests. I don't think I mentioned up here that this is a whole note rest. I did say that, and notice it's on the second line from the bottom, from the top. And then you have this half note rest. 2 beats of sound for a half note rest. Notice it's sitting on this middle line on top of it. So it's a whole note rest, half note rest. And you say, I don't know if I can remember which one's which. Well, this one takes up the whole measure. So it's like a day giveaway. This one, it's only taking up half the measure. So, oh, that must be the half note rest. So you really don't need to remember which one's which. You could just kind of look at the measure and say, oh, which one's taking up half the measure? Which one's taking up the whole measure? It's kind of a little way of cheating there. So getting back to this, we have these half notes, and then we have quarter notes. So 1 beat apiece. These little squiggly things are quarter note rests. They get 1 beat of rest apiece. So it's 4 beats of rest. It's the same thing as writing this whole note rest. So most of the time you'll see this. Rarely will you see 4 quarter note rests like that. But anyway, here's the quarter notes and then quarter note rest. And the way you perform it is da, 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 rest, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 da. And you need to be counting those rests. And in my mind, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 to keep track. Because sometimes your eyes get kind of lost, okay? And one final little thing that we want to cover down here, this is a conducting pattern in 4/4 time signature. Notice, and when a conductor wants to communicate with you, this is one of the things that he's going to show you through gesture. Where is beat 1? Where's beat 2? Beat 3? Beat 4? So I'm going to pretend this is a baton, and I'm going to be conducting you. I would say this is beat 1, 2, 3, 4. They're trying to tell you exactly where beat 1, beat 2, 3, 4 is in that particular measure. And he can use other gestures as well, such as a crescendo. So he would go crescendo, get louder. That crescendo means to get louder. This means to get softer. This means, softer, right? This means to stop, to cut off. It's a conductor's cutoff. So crescendo gets softer now. Like that. These are gestures that a conductor will use. And you need to understand how to read this and how to also conduct yourself, because it'll help you to internalize that beat that he's showing you. He's giving you a visual signal, but you as a musician, you have to internalize that visual signal and be able to actually feel it so that you can telecast that through your playing, through your articulations, being able to nail the entrance of a note so that it's not slightly off from what he's conducting, because there'll be other people playing as well with you in a group, and they all need to come in right at the same time. And that's what a conductor's for, to help to align those entrances when everybody's playing at the same time. So you need to understand 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're conducting from your point of view, let's say you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, down to the left, right, up, down to left, right, up. And you don't want to flop your arms like this, because where's beat 1 in that? You need to, from the tip of the baton, I should have brought the baton over here, from the tip of the baton to the elbow, it needs to be straight, and you want it parallel to the floor. I'm kind of holding it up a little bit because of the camera angle and everything. But you basically want this part of your arm to be flat to the floor. So it's down to left, right, up, down to left, right, up. Beat 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can slow it down, off. So this is important for getting everything together. And I'll get a baton next time maybe and show you exactly how to hold the baton. But you need to know how to conduct so that you'll be able to read a conductor's gestures.